10 years in New Jersey prison, armed robbery charge. But the real battle, that was inside of his own body. A disease that almost took him out. He was dying in that cell, skinny, sick, forgotten. But prison don't care. You either fold or you fight. And so he fought hard. The brothers inside, black, white, lifers, real ones, told him, get up, we got you. They pushed him to eat, train, and survive. Turned him from sick right back to solid. And here's the twist. He's got the footage. Real clips, him in that cell, surrounded by warriors, getting big. Bars, dips, pull-ups, beast mode. Running ink, getting wet on camera. No cap, no reenactments, just proof. You're watching DOC TV Unleashed. This is real pain, real growth, and always respect. Roll that intro. What's up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV Unleashed. If you're tapping in for the first time and haven't watched any videos yet on this channel, I bring people on that have done time in federal prison, state prison, and lived a crazy life and have made it out to the other side. If you like that type of content, please, this is a new channel. If you could, hit that subscribe button and turn your post notifications on so every time I do drop content, you can hear it first. So I got a guest today. You did 10 years in New Jersey State Prison, correct?
Yeah.
All right, man. So if you just want to introduce yourself to the audience, just tell them your name and obviously where you're from and kind of like what your life was like growing up and what you went through.
I'm Jay, by the way. Nice to meet you, everybody. I grew up in upstate New York, moved around a lot, as I got older and family issues and stuff, and ended up in Jersey with my father. And that's where I ended up getting pinched. A little after I turned 21, I ended up doing 12 at 85% of 12 years. I ended up being 10 years, 4 months, few days. I got my life together in there, but it took a little while. You know what I mean? It took a little while to get it right.
Yeah, New Jersey's, I've interviewed a lot of people, man. New Jersey's not one I think I've interviewed before, but how old were you when you caught the charges that sent you to prison?
So I was 21. I just turned 21. I got pinched in April of 2014. So I was 21 on the streets for maybe 10 months. I missed all my 20s.
Damn, bro.
Yep.
When you got to 10 years, man, like what was going through your head? Because I know at 20, that seems like 30 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it was like a split in my mind. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't expecting it. I'd never been to prison. I wasn't expecting it, but I had done a bunch of armed robberies, some pretty wealthy county. I guess they wanted to make an example. That's what ended up happening.
Can you talk about what you did? Like how much money?
Oh, yeah.
That?
I mean, so I started robbing drug dealers at first because I was on probation. Me and my boys jumped this dude the day after they jumped my friend. So my boy Nick, he was walking out to get us some Black and Milds from this beach party that we were throwing for this girl's 20th birthday party. It was probably like 11 o'clock at night. We're all drinking on the beach, and he just disappears. I don't know where the fuck he is. It's hours later. We find him knocked out in the middle of the path between the beach and the road. Dude had a literal shoe print in his face. Literal shoe print. Like you could see the tread, everything. It was there. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
but that's crazy.
I know, yeah. So the next day, we're doing a bunch of Xanax and stuff, and I don't know if I can say that, but
yeah, you can say whatever.
Okay, all right, yeah. So we're doing a bunch of Xanaxes. I used to party back then, and we're scrap metaling. We're kids. Semi-kids anyway. We're still young-minded anyway. So we're out there scrapping and shit. We got a truck, and who do we run into? One of the brothers. It was two people that did this to him. One of the brothers pulls up at the 7-Eleven we're at, and he doesn't know our truck. So we wait for him to get out and follow him into the store. My boy's yelling at him in the store. We knew the guy at 7-Eleven, so I'm like, listen, it's okay, everything's fine. I get my boy out of the store. We ended up, instead of going back to the truck, we split on both sides of the store. There was like an entrance where it like lifted out from the main building. So we were in the cut on both sides, waited for the dude to come out, and we just zipped him, you know what I mean? We started hawking him down around the back end. Now, this 7-Eleven, I don't know how it is in your state, but I'm pretty sure New Jersey is the only state with jug handles. I don't know if you know what. So a jug handle is like when you're driving down the highway. Like I grew up in New York, you can just make a left off the highway to go to the other side. New Jersey, you got to take a jug handle, which goes, it's like a loop around to a light, and you cross the highway to go wherever you're going. This 7-Eleven is on a jug handle, and there's like a little grass patch in the back. So we chased him down back there. I got a pipe. My boys got a pipe. We're chasing him down, and I ended up just throwing the pipe at him because this dude was fast. He was a fast guy, you know what I mean? So I ended up getting him in the legs. He tripped up, fell, and we just stomped him, smashed him right there, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right on the side of the jug handle. There's school buses. People are coming out of their houses. So we split, you know what I mean? We run. I get away for a few months. It was 4 of us. 2 of the guys ended up telling on me and Nick, making up stories. We found out in our discovery, you know what I mean? Long story short, end up on probation. I made it maybe about like a year before I caught this shit. Not even, you know what I mean? While I'm on probation, you know, I was still fucking around. I would get high. I would stop, you know, 3-4 days before I knew I had to report in, take my piss. Eventually, I lost the willpower. You know what I mean? After doing it for like 3 or 4 months, I lost the willpower.
Were most of your crimes, if not all of them, due to the fact of addiction or surrounded by that in a sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I mean, I don't get it twisted. I don't blame anybody else but myself.
No, yeah,
You know what I mean?
know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's for like the viewers too now. Like, own your shit. You know what I mean? Like, you did it, fucking own it, man up, handle your business, do what you gotta do, move on. You know what I mean? Was it like if I wasn't making the decision I was making, you know, getting high, sniffing everything, then I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have done any of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had a reason to.
What was the biggest armed robbery that you did?
It's like laughable. I look back and I laugh at it because it was like, you know what I mean? Like
Peanuts?
Yeah, it's peanuts. You know, it's a drop of water in the bucket. You know what I mean? The most I got was like about 5,000. You know what I mean? It's nothing. You know what I mean? What's $5,000? You know, even
Enough
in
to get high for the next month or 2, or maybe.
not even. It was like 3 days, 4 days. I was blowing through shit like crazy. You know what I mean?
What were you addicted to, man? Powder?
I was a garbage head, bro.
Okay, so
it depended on the day. So
I know, I do know.
yeah. So yeah, one day it'd be dope. I'd be sniffing dope to go to sleep, whatever. And so my whole life, I always like turned down cocaine, turned down crack, turned down this. You know, I don't want nothing to do with it. Well, me and my fiance during this period, you know, she was pregnant. And I was doing all right. I lived on my own since I was basically 15 years old. I kept getting kicked out at 15. I just started figuring out I gotta do this on my own. So that's how I started selling drugs. You know, I had this blood dude in Albany. His name was Diz. He was like 30 years old. He kept seeing me walk around. He's like, kid, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, why aren't you in school? And I'm like, dude, I don't, fuck school. I keep getting kicked out of my house. Like, what the fuck? I'm not going to wait on a school bus. Like, no.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing me. And he taught me how to bag up, how to weigh. He put me on with his wholesale connect, and he made sure I ate. You know what I mean? I used to sell Nick bags. You know what I mean? Like literal Nick bags.
That's back in the day type stuff.
Yeah. So I was doing that, and that's how it got me started. I never stopped. You know what I mean? Up until, you know, I'm done now, but
yeah,
I never stopped leading into prison. And then even during some of my prison bit, I was like still hustling. You know what I mean?
So you got 10 years for the armed robberies that you were doing, right?
Yeah, they considered it a crime spree because it was so many. I got lucky in that sense because they could have charged me for each consecutively, but because New Jersey has this crime spree law where it feels like all these crimes happen in a matter of days or a week, it's considered a crime spree. You can lump it all together as opposed to each trial, conviction, and then sentencing being different, potentially being running consecutive as opposed to concurrent. Yeah, so I lucked out on that.
What was the first prison that you ended up in New Jersey?
So it's called Garden State Youth Correctional Facility, or Yardville we call it. That's like gladiator school over here. You know what I mean? That's where everyone's getting it in. So it's everybody under the age of 30.
Under 30? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so if you're under
That's
30
weird.
and you got a big sentence, you've never been to prison before or whatever, you end up on a tier in that prison. So outside of this tier, we're in the back. We're in the dungeon. That's what we call it, is the dungeon. It used to be NRU, no return unit. That's what the COs used to call it, no return unit. But yeah, it's 3 floors. It was a horseshoe shaped. It looked like an ad seg. You know what I mean? You walk back there, it's fucking dark, it's musty, you know, everything's decrepit, but like you're just like, fuck, there's gates all up on the 2nd and 3rd floors. You know what it is, man.
How does it go as far as like, are you forced to pick a side, like as far as race or gangs or anything like that?
If you want to just like, you know, flop around and, you know, be one of them dudes, I mean, in New Jersey, you can kind of get away with that for the most part. My experiences in the county for the year I was was there is what led me to get down. You know what I mean? Because
What do you mean by
first week
that?
the first week I was in, dudes were stealing my canteen. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I'm outside playing basketball, come in, my shit's missing. So I start running around trying to check what the fuck's going on. And, out of nowhere, half of my shit's on my bed. I don't know who the fuck did it. So yeah, that was my first weekend, man. I'm coming off drugs. I'm strung out. You know what I mean? I finally got some fucking sugar. You know, I'm like ready to eat something other than a fucking hockey puck made of soy. And half the shit's gone. So I ended up getting half the shit back. Regardless, someone went in my shit and took it. You know what I mean? I got pride. I want to find out who the fuck did it. Like, I'll really go in the room with you. Like, it's fine. We can go in the room. We can get it in. You know what I mean? And you beat my ass. You beat my ass. I don't give a fuck. Like, we're getting it in.
Yeah.
So, I don't fucking care, you know? So I'm going around, and next thing you know, as I'm going around talking to people, I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to the big homies. You know what I mean? I'm going to the Crips, going to the, like, they were all on the same tier. For a while, there was tiers where they were mixed, and then they had their own tiers. Maybe a few weeks to a month after that, what really got to me, what ended up in a first fight I had in the county was there was this kid Jeff, used to play ball with him all the time. Like, yeah, like the white boys clicked up in the county without a doubt. Like, just felt a little bit more comfortable that way. Everybody was chilling. It wasn't on some like hate shit. But we had our table. Everybody else had their tables. We'd kick it. We played ball. It wasn't beef or nothing. But there was this kid Fresh. He was trying to get down with the Crips on the tier for a good month. For whatever reasons they had, they weren't letting him get down. I don't know what the deal was with that. It was about my height, kind of jacked up, you know what I mean? Thought he was tough. He's a regular dude, standalone. And I send Jeff in to go get some water for us while we're playing basketball, because the cement yard that we shared with the other unit, like, you get it half the day, they would get it the other half. The door would just stay open. You can just go in and out. And so I send him in to get water. Next thing I know, there's codes popping off. Everyone's like, oh, lock down. So we're like, the fuck? So we get inside. I come to find out there was a fight in one cell that had poured out of the cell, like the dudes tumbled out of the door. And at the same time that was going on, Fresh thought it would be a good idea to just sneak the shit out of Jeff while he's getting water. So he's got his cup in his hand, other hand on the sink button. The door's right here, and in comes Fresh, starts teeing off on the kid right in his face, ripping him. We get locked down because the fight that fell out into the tier, they come around, do hand checks, face checks. Jeff's fucked up. His whole shit's trash. The other two guys got out, they were right on camera. There was no beat in that one, you know what I mean? And they take Fresh. Fresh doesn't tell. So I'm on a tier with a bunch of Crips, and there was a lot of I don't know if you know Grape Street, but there was a lot of Grape Street homies over there. And there was a dude, Welch's, who was like, he was high up. He's like second in command for like the whole state of New Jersey. He was fighting his Fed case at the time, and my county house Fed inmates. There was like 6 white boys on the tier, and there's never a lot of us. You know what I mean? There was like 6 of us on one tier, and there was like 30 of them. So I go up to Welch's. I'm like, yo, I was like, I want to strap this kid up. I was like, he's still on the tier. He did this to fucking Jeff, no reason. I'm like, is it gonna be a thing? He's like, hell no. He's like, I got you, bro. Don't worry about that. Shit's straight. I got you. He was an official dude. Welch's was a stand-up gangster. Like, he was old school gangster. I strapped dude up, went down the tier with Welch's. I'm like, yo, let's go. Let's get in the room. Me and you, we're gonna fight. Fresh is like, nah. I ain't going in the room. And his little side dog, his little pup that he was hanging out with all the time, is like, nah, he ain't gotta do shit. Welch's comes up. He's like, either you're going in that room or the homies are strolling you off the tier.
Hell yeah, I like Welch.
Yeah. So I'm like, let's go. So we go in the room. This dude thought he was gonna box me, and I boxed. Like, I boxed for a couple of years prior to getting locked up because my dad made me get into it. So he thought he was gonna box me. I just start teeing off on him. So he realizes he can't do that. Bear hugs me, fall up into the bed, and I just happen to be able to reach down his back and pull his shirt over his face, like hockey style. So his whole back of his shirt's over his fucking head. He's trying to pull it off. I jam it under his chin with my left hand, and I just start ripping him. Boom, 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 right in the face. He drops down. It's over. I'm not trying to murder the guy. You know what I mean? Just send a fucking message. You know what I mean? You can't do this. You know what I mean? After that, it was pretty much smooth sailing the rest of my county bid, but there was a lot of like racial shit. You see a lot of new white guys come on the tier, and I'm just waiting to see how they react. You know what I mean? Like, when they come, because black dudes are just gonna fuck with them. Just out of principle.
So that's a thing then in Jersey, huh?
Like, you're gonna get fucked with 100%. Like, it's unavoidable, especially if you're like fiended out. Dudes are going to come up like, yo, you get canteen, you get this, you get that. Oh, this is my phone, you can pay to use this, or this is a blow phone, or this, that, and third. That's the thing, you know what I mean? It's like, or they'll do the little friendly extortion joint, you know what I mean? Whether they're pals, they protect them, but you got to order them stuff because, whatever reason, you know how it goes.
Yeah, the finesse game. When you got to prison, was it like that in prison in New Jersey?
Yes and no. It depended honestly on what tier you were on.
How did you mentally survive doing 10 years?
I compartmentalize a lot of stuff. So
you just block everything out type shit?
Yeah, so I would see like these horrendous things happening to people, or I would experience some stuff. And as soon as it was over, I'm like, all right, file it away, shut my mind off, focus on today. And then I realized the value of exercise. Like I've seen a lot of guys talk about it online, but it's not a cliche, it's the truth. Like, working out saved my life. You know what I mean? Like finding the gym, finding fitness, understanding calisthenics. You know what I mean? It saved me. It transformed me into like a stand-up man. You know what I mean?
Were you affiliated when you went to prison?
While I was in the county, I ended up running into a guy named Brandon, and he was in our state. We have it's called SPS, State Prison Skins. It's just a prison thing for guys. You know what I mean? Anyone who's affiliated on the street comes in. That you get down with us, or you don't do anything. You know what I mean? You can go sit over there by yourself, or you can do what we do.
So you guys were running like pretty much the prisons as far as the white car?
As far as the white car, yeah.
There's no AB, there's no...
Nah.
None of that?
Nah, there's like, the only time you'd have like, we had a couple IPS guys from out west, Insane Peckerwood Syndicate guys from Oregon. That's because they have like an interstate, transfer act with our state. So like when they become a problem out there, they'd ship them to the other side of the country type of deal. I ended up bunking up with a couple of them. They were solid dudes, you know what I mean?
So what did your time look like being a part of SPS?
I mean, there was a few times we had to do some sketchy shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for the most part, it was just we were looking out for each other. You know what I mean? I was on a tier. Give you an example of why it was necessary. Was I was on a tier of about 160 some guys, 3 floors, and there was 2 white people. Two. Me and one other guy. Yeah, 2 for like 9 months.
What?
Yeah, I'm not making this up. So it was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
That's crazy. I've never seen that. I mean,
it was wild. So what ended up happening was one dude got released from back there, went home from back there. You know what I mean? Because he had just been putting work this whole bid, so he couldn't go to no camps, nothing like that. So he ends up leaving, and we ended up doing a whole hunger strike with the tier because they were just fucking with rec. The COs were coming crazy. So we're like, what are our options? Pop them, riot, or hunger strike. So we did a hunger strike. You know what I mean? See how it went. It worked. And they just, after it's over, the administration comes in and just picks people at random to leave. You're getting shipped to this prison. You're getting shipped to this prison. You know what I mean? That's their little retaliation thing. And what ended up being the result of that was 6 months. After that, for that 6 months, until more people ended up coming back, it was just 2 white people left. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Fucking wild, right, bro?
Yeah.
So it's like
how was the other white guy? Was he a stand-up dude?
He was a hermit.
Stayed in his cell all day?
He was one of them cell guys. Yeah, he's one of them stay in the cell guys, doesn't come out. You know what I mean? When you do see him, it's, it's for food or to take a weekly shower because, they're fucking dirty, fucking.
And so you had it so then obviously you was everyone like respectful towards you and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When did you have your first problem in prison?
It was with a CO. It was a CO. It wasn't even an inmate.
How did that go? What happened?
It didn't result in us fighting. I ended up, so like I was saying, we're in the back of the prison in PRU2. And so you have to walk up 2 hallways, and long hallways. All that's in those hallways is the yards on the one side. You got the windows, you can see it. And then you got the officer in the bubble over to the right at the top of the hill who opens the gate, to get to the other part of the prison. And for like 5 months, mind you, I'm fresh into prison, right? You know what I mean? For like 5 months, when you walk through the hallways here, there's COs that'll just be lined up. You'll turn a corner, you'll see 17 COs, hand picking people out. You pat them down randomly on the way to the yard. Not everybody gets patted down, you know what I mean? But enough people do to where you might think twice before you bring something out there, you know what I mean? That's what they know what they're doing. There was this Spanish cop, and every time I'd walk past him, he'd be saying shit under his breath. Every time. And like at first it didn't register, but it happened like 3 times in a row now. And I'm like, this dude's fucking saying shit about me, like for no reason, right? So, and he eats at me. I'm the type of person, where I'll be quiet for a little while, but it just festers in my mind until it blows up. You know what I mean? So
I do know what you mean.
yeah. So after a few months of this, I'm walking to medical. They call me down to medical, so I have to go to the other side of the prison. So it's just me walking through the hall. He happens to be walking down the hill towards my tier, and I'm walking up the hill. We're passing each other, and it's just us in this hallway. I walk past him, and he starts mumbling shit under his breath again. And then that was when I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? I'm done. I'm not going to do 10 years like this. I'm just not. You know what I mean? This is what it is. This is what it is. So I turn around. I'm like, you got something to say? And he's like 6-7 feet from me, you know, at this point when we had passed each other. He's like, excuse me? I'm like, do you got something to say? Did I fucking do something to you? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, for the last few months, every time I walk by you, you're saying shit under your fucking breath. You got something to say? What is it? What is it? And now I'm taking a couple steps forward. And he's like, nah, man, nah. I'm like, then leave me the fuck alone. Leave me the fuck alone, bro. And I turned around, I walk away. He didn't hit the button on me, which was surprising. I'm not going to lie, because they like that button. You know what I mean?
That's their saving grace.
Yeah, they love that button. You know what I mean? The rest of the time I was in this prison, before I went to the adult facilities, fine. Didn't bother me. He didn't even pull me over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't even pull me over. I swear to God. But yeah, that was my first issue down there. The other one was with a cellie. You know what I mean? He kept stealing my coffee. You know, it just get lower and lower, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I ended up taking like a white string, sealing it into the peel away part on the inside of the coffee, so that way if you open it, it falls in the coffee. I'm gonna know, you know what I mean? The string's gonna be in the fucking coffee, because I know how to open it to where I would hold it and I would pull the string out if it wasn't open while I was gone. Old head put me onto that trick. You know what I mean? That wasn't me. That was, you know, that's passed down knowledge. But yeah, I fucking did it, and he took my coffee. So I went in there, I opened the door, I come in from work. First thing I do, go to the room, check my coffee. Sure enough, dude took it. Dude's in there eating my coffee up. I called him out on it. He started denying it. I felt like the way he was talking, he was getting a little aggressive, but he was on the top bunk. Before he could do something to me, I just pulled the mat off the bunk with him on it. I punched him in the face a few times for stealing my shit. And he cried a little bit, you know what I mean? Told me to stop. And so I felt bad, because I'm not a fucking psycho. You know what I mean? I don't want to hurt people. But like, you're not going to just steal from me and then go, I don't know, when I'm gone, you're bragging to your boys over this, you know what I mean? And they want to test me now. You know what I mean? So like, fuck that. So I smashed him in the face a few times, and he ended up getting out of the room after that. You know, that night he got out of the room. You know, I had the night to myself, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, he didn't tell on me, so that was another plus. You know what I mean? That was my saving grace. It wasn't always fighting there. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, there was a code every day. You know what I mean? It just wasn't always a fight for me. You know what I mean? Once you get into a few fights down there and you know how to move, dudes, you're pretty respectful. You know, you got your young dumb guys that come in that want to just say shit to anybody. You know what I mean? If you're white, you're fair game. You know what I mean? Type of shit. But after a while, dudes would pull them up. Nah, Jay's good. You know what I mean? So
what was the craziest thing that you saw during your time?
The dude Welch's I was telling you about, it stems from him. This he's pretty well known. You can Google him. You know what I mean? I think he's in the feds right now. He's doing Fed time. So on a prior case, there was a dude that had told on him before the one that he's in the feds for now. Well, this dude ended up on my tier, that PRU tier I was telling you about. And everyone's like, yo, Jay, not just me, but they're telling other people like, yo, stay away from the barbershop. Stay away from the barbershop. The barbershop is a few chairs and a little desk with all the haircut shit set up right in the middle of the day space. That's the barbershop. And then it's in the middle of the horseshoe. So dudes would sit in the chair, you get cut up, you know, you pay him with your canteen, you peel out. Well, dude goes there to get it cut. Barber walks off, and like 5 grape homies just start stomping him, surrounding him, beating the shit out of him, right? This guy's running around the tier. He's trying to get away from these guys. The COs are like, what the fuck? Stop. But because there's so many dudes, they're waiting for backup. They ain't just jumping in the fray. It was some fat ass CO and some chick. You know, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't matter, you know?
Right.
So they're smashing this guy. One of the Crips grabs the fucking clippers, these big, and they're just ripping this guy with the clippers, right? And he's still screaming, help, running around the tier. He grabs onto the door, and I'll never forget it, dude. He grabs onto the handle of this door, right? So he's not on the ground, which I don't know why he did this. It made no sense. But like, he's doing it and he's hanging there and he's getting hit with clippers. He's getting punched in his shit. Next thing you know, his pants are halfway off his ass. He's got his whole fucking ass out. The whole tier sees him. He's fucking half naked, shirt's on, ass tit, dick, balls, that shit's all out. You know what I mean? He's getting beat the fuck up, stomped on. Next thing you know, you got 20 COs busting in the unit, tear it up. I mean, this guy ended up fucking in the hospital. You know what I mean? So they fucked him up pretty good. But while I'm telling you about this story, the craziest shit that ever happened to me was I pretty much, the cell next to me, 3 months into my sentence, cell next to me, I pretty much heard this dude get murdered middle of the night. Just murdered him, basically. To this day, I don't know if he's alive or not. I thought he was dead. He was a sex offender. Didn't know that. At the time I got to Yardville, the sex offenders were just mixed in. You got all these dudes on the tier that are like gangster and shit like that, and they give off that little gangster vibe too. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, everyone's giving them canteen, everyone's hanging out with them at the tables and shit like that. So there was a bunch of them, but it's funny that it was a result of this. So the night the dude nearly got murdered, it was this guy. He had got some bad news from his family. Like his mom had just died. He's doing 15 years. He's in the cell with this sex offender. Dude that's doing all this time doesn't have a TV. The sex offender does. I guess the guy, his name was Puff, I think his name was. It was a black dude and a Spanish dude. The black dude was regular. He was a regular dude. And the Spanish dude was the sex offender. And I guess Puff had smoked some K2 because he had got the bad news. You know what I mean? He smoked that K2 and he's fucking in there all fried out of his mind. And I guess the sex offender wouldn't let him use his TV. So he wanted to watch whatever shows he wanted to watch. And then bro was like, man, fuck that. Fuck that. He took the TV from, you hear him arguing. My bunkie turns our TV down because we share a vent. That's how we hear everything.
Hold up.
Yeah. He's like, we're watching Modern Family. We're in there laughing. We're in there all fucked up laughing. It's the middle of the night. It's our time to kick back. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yo, why you turn the TV down? He's like, listen. So I'm listening. We get up on the vent over by the sink, and you just hear them. They're arguing back and forth, and you hear them fighting. You can tell it's a mutual fight at first, and then you hear it's just one-sided. The dude's like begging him to stop. Please stop. Now, mind you, third shift, there ain't a CO around for a good, 30, 45 minutes at least. You know what I mean? They're not even on the tier half the time. They're just, just out doing whatever the fuck they're doing. ODR and the hallway bullshit and trying to fuck some other CO. Well, you know what's going on. So he's beating the shit out of him, and then you just hear the dude stops at begging dude to stop. It was just quiet, you know what I mean? But it wasn't. You just heard someone getting hit. Next thing you know, you hear somebody getting hit with the TV. You can hear the plastic just whacking off this dude. Boom, 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 boom.
Damn.
So I'm looking at my bunkie and I'm like, bro, like, what the fuck's happening right now? Like I'm literally hearing a guy get murdered. I don't like watching that shit online, let alone it happen right now. You know what I mean? Like, so.
And you're 3 months in to your 10-year bid.
A year. So I spent a year in the county. I'm 3 months in the state. Yeah. Okay. So about a year and 3 months. But I mean, nothing like this happened in the county. Right. You know what I mean? This is another level of like brutality. You know what I mean?
What's going through your head when this is all going on?
I'm like, am I really like, I'm thinking I'm about to get questioned by the detectives in some point in the future. You know what I mean? Like
facts.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, what the fuck's happening right now? Like this dude's beating him to death and there's no CO anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, so like that moment, I realized you're really on your own in this bitch. You know what I mean? Like most of the time you're on your own. So you better be ready to go. So you don't want to be a victim. I won't be a victim. I'm not gonna, it's not happening.
Me either.
You know what I mean? So it ends up, like I was saying, dude's beating him with the TV, and then he's just tripping out. He's screaming in the room. He's screaming, making all these noises and shit like that. Not the sex offender, the dude Puff. He's just bugging. You know what I mean?
He's probably like lost it, bro.
Yeah, he like
went crazy.
Yeah, he had a break, bro. He had a long sentence. His fucking mom just died. You know what I mean? Like, it just fucked him up. And I get it because my dad died 10 months into my sentence. You know what I mean? Like, it was unexpected. It happened. When I was in the county, and that shit fucked me up. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to think. So he's screaming. Finally, a CO comes around after like 20 minutes. We're on the third floor. No, we're on the second floor. Dude's like, looks in the room. He's like, oh, what the fuck? You heard the CO say, like, what the fuck? So apparently, Puff was naked. No, we don't know why. You know what I mean? The dude that beat the shit out of him, he was just butt ass naked in the cell. All right, tripping out on K2, screaming. You know what I mean? There's there's a dead guy. There's a fucking dead guy behind him. You know what I mean? I don't know what he looked like. He must have looked crazy. The TV's all smashed up, probably hanging anywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the CO's like, look, man, like what's going on? You got to put some clothes on. The dude, it was maybe it was 2015 this happened because he was screaming about talking to Trump, and I think Trump was just running for president, and he was running against Hillary. Yeah, he was running against Hillary at the time. Yeah, and he's like, I need to talk to Trump. Yeah, he's like, I need to talk to Trump. And the CO's like, fine, that's fine. We'll get you a phone. We'll take you down to medical. We'll get you a phone. Just put some clothes on. Like, just put them on. You know what I mean? Put some clothes on. Get the underwear. It's over there. Get the underwear. It's over there. So dude's like, finally, after like 20 minutes of coaching him, you know, you got like 30 COs outside the door, EMTs from like the street, not some nurses from the prison. You got actual EMTs here with the stretcher. So they finally get him. Dude put his shit through the hand port, cuffed him up, took him out. He's in his underwear. We don't know what the fuck happened. They take the sex offender out. We're on lockdown now for like 2 weeks. They start coming through and they start pulling sex offenders off all the tiers to put them all on one tier in the prison. They didn't have a choice if you were getting moved. And all these gangster dudes on the tier that were like getting canteen, they had runner jobs, they were on the phones all day, gone. I started
figuring out where they were getting their money from.
Oh my God, bro. They were all sex offenders, bro. I'm like, what the fuck? And then you put them all on one tier. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm like, these are the guys you're like paying? Like, this is what's happening here? It's fucked up.
When that happened, all them gangsters were looking crazy then, right? No money, not eating goulashes at night, none of that shit.
Yep.
So what happened then? Did they start pressuring people with canteen in the dorm?
It wasn't a dorm. It was just it was a straight max unit. So we had 23 and 1 for one day. The next day, you had 15 minutes in the morning to shower. You were in your room.
What?
Yeah, maximum security. That's what it was over there.
How long did you do that for?
I did before we started hunger striking a lot and coming together as a unit. It was about a year. It fucked me up. I was in my head all day.
So you were basically in confinement then for a year.
Yeah, and
that's what confinement is in state. I mean, it's a little different. You don't get I don't know. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, and they had like a rotating yard schedule, which was also fucking stupid because on the day you got your 15-minute shower, you can go out for 15 minutes on the tier, shower, use a phone, whatever the fuck you're gonna do. Or you can go to yard for 2 hours in the morning. So what are you going to pick? I'm going to fucking yard. You know what I mean? I go to yard, but now you're bird bathing in the sink. You know what I mean? You're doing all this other dumb shit. You know, you got to put the curtain up. Your bunkies over there.
I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't have went to yard.
It was a hit or miss.
I would have worked out in the cell. I've done that before. Cause then you're like sweat. Like you say, that bird bath shit, that sucks.
It's not ideal, bro. And don't get me wrong. There was days I'm like, I'm staying in. You know what I mean? Like, especially when I got a job, I would miss so many afternoon yards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're playing makeup.
Yeah, so it's like I got to get some fresh air, man.
When did you get to a prison where you like the compound went to yard, you went to chow, like it was just a functioning compound, or is that even a thing?
It was a trade-off. So the culture in Yardville, even though it was all locked down like it was official. The young guys in the Ville, like they had a code. They weren't fucking with rats. They weren't fucking with sex offenders. When you pulled up on a tier, someone was pulling your paperwork, whether you're white, black, Muslim, blood, Crip, didn't matter. One of your people's going to come to your door, be like, hey, yo, I need your paperwork. Here's mine. Let's go. You know what I mean? And if you ain't supplying it, bro, if you can't get it within a couple weeks, you're out. So I ended up going to the adult facilities. The Southwoods is what the prison was called. It was in Bridgeton, New Jersey. There was 3 yards a day. You got the shower 3 times. You got 3 recs a day on the inside right after your yard, which was sick. So that was the trade-off. The food was a little bit better, but there was just fucking sex offenders everywhere. It was like 40% of the population of the prison because they had closed at the same time. They had closed the sex offender prison. They had their own prison. They closed it down. That's where they put like the cops that got in trouble and got locked up, COs that got locked up, and sex offenders. You know what I mean? They all had a prison. It was Avenel. Well, they started getting them out. They started just sending them around the state to the other prisons. A lot of them ended up in Southwoods to the point where like you couldn't even smash enough of them. Like you weren't getting rid of them. They was just they were literally 40% of the prison. You know what I mean?
It was like that when I was at Gulf CI in Florida one time. It was like that. I know what you mean, and it's like, yeah, dude, it's a weird feeling if you've never went through it. Like being around all those people like that is a creepy feeling, man.
Dude, I have a big family. I'm the oldest, a lot of sisters. And every time I meet one of them and I hear about what they did to some girl for no other reason other than they're fucking sick fucks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like those are the only people I really hate. I truly, truly hate them. Like I really don't want them to exist, you know?
Yeah. Firing squad.
Yeah. That's what they deserve. You know what I mean?
During your prison time, did you have support from the outside? Like you said, you come from a big family.
Some of my family to this day don't talk to me anymore. I had my mom, my aunt, My grandparents, you know what I mean? My sisters were around. So like, it was nice. Even they live far away. So I only got like 1 or 2 visits a year, which was fine. I had my head in the game, you know, the rest of the time. My head wasn't on the streets, so it made my time a little bit easier. But there was money on my books for the most part. You know what I mean? I was eating. It was okay. You know what I mean? I ended up getting real sick in prison. Almost died. Misdiagnosed. Ended up on a hospital unit. My family had to hire a lawyer. It was a lot. Yeah.
What did you have?
I got Crohn's disease out of nowhere when I turned 27. It just happened. And then on top of that, I had an infection in my intestines simultaneously, and it's called C. diff. Nearly killed me. I went from being 187 pounds solid. You know, I mean, I was working out for fucking 6 years straight, and I ended up fucking at 123 pounds in a wheelchair. Couldn't walk. I was fucked up, bro. Ended up going to 16 hospital stays, you know. That happened in the middle of my bid, and it lasted for about 3.5 years. You know what I mean? I was fucked up. So my family got really involved. They saved my life. My town that I grew up in upstate New York, they came up with a bunch of money on this donation stuff, which I never would have asked for. My mom did it without telling me, because I would have told her, no, don't do it. I don't want sympathy. I don't want help. You know what I mean? But she did it, and I gotta be thankful. They saved me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but
that's crazy, man, to have to go through all that being incarcerated. And if you don't know and you're just watching now, the healthcare system is broken on the street. So imagine what it's like in fucking prison.
Yep.
And it's horrible, man. Like, you can go there with a staph infection and they give you an ibuprofen and send you back to the dorm. It's like,
you can look this up. In my state, there was a guy that had diabetes. He had to get his leg amputated. It was like his left leg. They sent him to the state hospital that the prison basically propped up because it would have closed otherwise. It's closed now as of last year because the DOC stopped funding it. It was the only reason it existed anymore. It had like a prison floor. 5th floor was a prison floor. You couldn't get it from the regular elevators. These fucking doctors chopped off the wrong leg.
What the fuck?
Chopped off the wrong leg. Yeah. So they still had to chop off the other one. So this is a lifer. So now the guy's got no legs. This is a fact. You can look it up. I'm like, this is a fucking wild story, right?
Damn.
And he's got no legs. And they offered him to go to a nursing home. Well, he's a lifer. He's like, no, fuck that. I'm suing you. Now the guy's got a whole bunch of like millions of dollars or whatever on his books, but he's going to, I don't know, man, whatever. He's happy.
Hopefully he can appeal it with all that money.
It's wild, bro.
That's crazy. I mean, I saw that happen in my county jail. There was a dude that kind of had the same thing you said, but not the wrong leg cut off. He just had diabetes and they weren't treating it properly and he lost his leg. So
yeah.
It's all goes down to neglect, though, at the end of the day.
Well, that's what I try to tell people when they're screaming about this universal healthcare stuff. I'm like, universal healthcare is in prison. That is universal healthcare. Everybody gets it. You know what I mean? So you can go there and you can get Tylenol, you can get everything you want, but that's what happens. They flood the healthcare shit in there. Everybody drops slips, whether it's to go see their boys in medical from another tier, or if they got issues. You know what I mean? Yeah. But most of the time, they don't even take you serious until you're fucking nearly dead.
I know. You know what I mean? I almost lost my left leg. Well, I'm going to do an episode on that, so I don't want to say too much about it. But
okay. All right. Fair enough.
Like I'm saying, in prison with healthcare, it's terrible. So I'm sure you had some moments where you were like, damn, I'm going to die in this bitch.
I felt less than human for what they did to me, man.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first time I ever felt like, yo, these people really, really don't care if I live or die, and I'm isolated from my family. Like, I was just like, I started to like break down mentally for a good year and a half until the other guys in the unit kind of got me back together. You know, white dudes, black dudes, everybody. They were like, bro, you gotta come on. Like, let's go. Get out in the yard. Let's walk. Let's do this. Let's do something. You know what I mean? They saved me, bro. It was a lot. So it's like, that's why I say I don't got a lot of hate in my heart. Like, I judge a person off their character. Like, white dudes sticking it together in prison, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's necessary. You know, it's just a fucking necessary fact of life. It's tribal. You know what I mean? But am I opposed to fucking talking to other people and helping other people no matter what? No, fuck no.
Yeah.
You know, like, especially after my life experiences, like, it just taught me, like, the real enemy is the system. They create all this.
Yeah, crazy what they get away with too, man. They get away with so much.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, how many COs are on average on any moderate sized prison? 200-300 staff, and you got 3,000 inmates. Yeah, 3,000 inmates. The only way they keep us controlled is fucking keeping us divided. Imagine if all 3,000 inmates were thinking on the same page.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah, let's be realistic here. You know what I mean? That the real enemy is the system.
Do you have any social media you want to give a shout out, or anybody or anything?
My TikTok is Jersey J Junior 92.
I'll put a link for your TikTok in the description. So if you guys want to check it out, you can just look in the description. I'll put your link in there.
Definitely appreciate the ad, fellas.
All right, bro. Appreciate it. If you're new and you're tuning in, this is the kind of content I cover on this channel. It's new. So if you could, man, please hit that subscribe button and turn your post notifications on. And with that, this is DOC TV Unleashed, and we're out.